I think I would tell a first timer on their very first trip that to just expect the unexpected. Like nothing is set in stone, and we do crazy and we do awesome.
A first-time volunteer probably is scared when they first get on the bus. They are nervous about who they're going to meet, if they're going to fit in with everybody else. Mindcheckers is a really close-knit group of people. We've spent a lot of time on the road together, but we're always adding so many new people that it's just so inclusive that you don't feel like an outsider for very long. They're probably nervous that they won't understand their demo until they get the sheet that has the basic science principles right there outlined for them. I know I've had a lot of demos that have nothing to do with my major, but I've been able to teach them. It doesn't matter whether you're a biology student or an engineer, you would be able to do any demo. And they're probably really anxious about what's going to happen at the actual event because, especially for me growing up, I had never seen anything like a Mindchecker event, and I had no idea what to expect. And then you get there, and it's music, and everybody's having fun, and it's really relaxed, and it just takes a big stress off your shoulders, and you get to relax pretty quickly.
I personally go through a few steps to prepare a demo. I like to make sure that I know the lesson plan, that I go through, and I see the list of ingredients, and especially paying attention to the safety, because that's a big thing. With any of our liquid nitrogen demos, with any of our fire demos, you need to have long pants, closed-toed shoes, hair pulled back, safety glasses and all that, and while some of that is provided, some of it's not. So, you have to be prepared for that coming on the trip. Getting on the bus, you need to have all that. And then just making sure that I understand the concepts, maybe looking more into it. I go on the internet, search things, make sure that I have the base concepts down. And then what else do I do? Maybe running it, 1 or 2 times before any kids show up, just so that I make sure that I have it, or trying it out on another trucker.
If I recommend anything, it would be make sure you count your socks and clothes. If you're doing oobleck, an extra set on top of that. All your toiletries, usually the hotels have shampoo. A swimsuit is usually needed, and that's a lot of fun. And pajamas, don't forget those.
I would tell them to bring comfortable shoes, like comfortable pants. You're not dressing for style, you're dressing for functionality. You're going to be standing all day.
I remember trips being pretty miserable, having worn like flats, or like really crappy shoes. Deodorant would be another good thing that people should bring, because we're running around, we're busy the entire day. It's active. People are very active on our trips, so
make sure you're bringing stuff for the bus. After a Mindchecker trip, you're going to be wiped out. You're going to want a pillow or a blanket because you're going to be sleeping on the way home.
Some kids, they need to be spoken to directly, almost in a commanding tone to get them to stop and listen. And other kids, if you do that, they will pull back.
Sometimes we talk over their head, and it can cause frustration or anything like that, or even intimidation because you don't feel like you can connect.
And it turns out that the more often a TA listens, the more people learn, which is really surprising because most of us look at an educational context. I actually asked my GTAs, which of these is the best GTA? And inevitably, most of them pick the one who did a lot of really good explaining. But it turns out that what you really need to do to educate people is to start from where they are. So if you can ask kids what they think, ask kids to make a prediction, ask kids to tell why they think this is going to happen, and then start the discussion from there, I think you're going to find that there's a lot more learning that happens as a result.
They kind of respond to that differently. And not only that, but it puts you on their level. You're both students at that point. When you stop trying to tell them how things are and start wondering with them, then you get a lot better results if you want them to think for themselves. So the key is with young kids that I love is that you can just really get into what you're doing and they will follow you, and if they stray, you can just easily bring them back. Whereas with older kids, it requires a little bit more social tact. Like your words may not be, they may be misconstrued, or you got to really think about the impact of what you say to an older child, because they're probably more mature than you realize in a lot of cases, and they probably think about what you say a lot more than you do.
There's pretty good evidence that, below middle school, most kids struggle to abstract things. And so demonstrations that involve electrical currents, for instance, are really very difficult for kids at that age to wrap their head around, because they don't have the ability to really abstract this idea of an electron moving through wires without a lot of help and a lot of visualization. If you give them concrete images to attach to these abstract ideas, they're much better able to conceive the science concepts that are going on.
Inspiring them to wonder more, the younger they are, every moment that you can get at somebody at a younger age, inspiring them to be curious and wonder is good for them, because when they, as they mature, that kind of a trait it's fundamental to thinking.
Remember how it was for you. So I think as an adult, sometimes we forget what it was like or how we were. And so I try to connect with them that way first by asking them, well, what are you doing? What TV shows do you like, or something to break the ice first, and then go in and engage them in other ways after that. But usually something to help them to break the ice first, and then engage them and then start a conversation. So my goal is always relationship. So I feel like I can meet someone, connect with them on a certain level to develop some sort of relationship with them, so that they're comfortable with me, they're comfortable with talking to me, and they're comfortable with listening to the conversation or the information that I want to give them.
Before a Mind Trekkers event, a lot of them probably don't think it's that cool. I will admit, when I was in middle school and early high school, I did not think any kind of thing related to STEM was cool. Science, technology, engineering, math, it all just bored me. But as soon as you have the opportunity to learn about it in a cool way, like Mind Trekkers, if I had had an opportunity to go to something like that when I was younger, I probably would have found it so much more interesting.
In approaching a middle schooler compared to a high schooler, I try to incorporate maybe what they're learning at that age, or going back to my memory of what I've learned at that age, and kind of incorporating it into the demo.
The age will always affect the level of science that you're kind of explaining things to them. You're not going to tell a preschooler about dipole moments in different items. You use a little bit more technical terms with high schoolers, especially if they've taken a chemistry or a physics class. With middle schoolers, maybe incorporate some science terms, and then also do that with elementary. Just use your discretion. If it looks like it's completely over their heads, maybe bring it back a notch. If it looks like they're asking you for more, tell them more.
I think that the difference between young child and an adult is that an adult brings a lot more to the table, and that helps and hurts them, because an adult tends to think about the world the way they already see it, and a child is so used to seeing things new or learning things as they go that they're much more open-minded about acquiring information and using that information.
Just keep it conversational. They're probably going to get the most out of it if you just keep it conversational.
For students that may not actually know what I'm talking about, and I don't know that they know that, or make sure that they know what I'm kind of talking about, is basically their facial reactions. I've had so many students just look at me like, huh, how does that work? And then compared to, hey, that makes a lot more sense.
The key is, and especially with STEM or any kind of authentic inquiry or anything like that, the key is that you got to empower them just to the point where the challenge seems reasonable. And so whenever I'm giving information and students, actually the trick that I've developed is to only ask questions and to reveal the information embodied in the question. Because if you only ask a question, then you kind of give them the inclination that you could be wrong too, you know? And so even though there's information there, they're still going to have to think about it and decide for themselves whether that's applicable to what they're doing.